join us. Thank you very much for joining us via Zoom. We're really pleased to have you. I've introduced you. You'd like students, I understand it, to email you if they have questions. Is that correct?
Yes, and or Telegram, or during the talk or later, whatever you prefer.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much. And will these slides be available to students afterwards, Richard?
Of course, I'll send them. Yes.
Thank you very much indeed. You happy for me to hand over to you now?
Thanks. So it's a great pleasure to at least talk to you over Zoom. What I propose is that we kind of have two sessions. A first session, which is more or less 1 hour, and very high level talk. And then in the second part, I want to be, kind of show how I, in my work, have been implementing some of the ideas to go forward. So, do you hear it well enough, or?
Yeah, no, we can hear. We're just moving. People are now just moving forward a little bit, just so they can hear. Can you hear over in the corner? Mine would come. So the speaker is here, so the rooms aren't done out. So the closer you can be.
Okay.
In fact, if someone wants to sit here, I'll go and sit at the back. So I'll go further forward.
So just come. So we all, kind of talk about coronavirus, and as we speak, actually the financial markets are going through a real period of shock and tremor, which is truly serious. So what I want to do here is my first part, talk about a plan forward of how we can respond to the coronavirus, not from a healthcare point of view, but from an economic, financial market point of view. The talk is structured in the following way. What options exist? I want to highlight that technology is a resource, and then explain that there is a plan forward. Open up for questions, and then let's have a break of 10 minutes and just relax. And then I'll discuss Lykke, because that is the company that I've been building for the last 5 years. And Lykke is my commercial way of trying to kind of implement my ideas and make them reality and be able to roll it out to address, for example, a crisis as we're experiencing. And I use the presentation material that we use for investors and other kind of people who are interested to know what it's all about. But the interest there is, it will give you a kind of view of how we structure the business and how we can make our plans actually work. So let's dive in. The coronavirus is highly infectious. Literally within a matter of 2.5 months, 120,000 people have been infected, and more than 4,000 people have died. China has opted for very draconian measures. What are questions that we have to ask ourselves? First, how will the virus spread? How can the healthcare system manage the impact of so many people falling ill? An important question is, how do governments respond? Some governments might be fast, others slow. What is happening there? And then finally, critical is actually the economic impact. Because in fighting and supporting people on a healthcare basis, it's key that the medicine is available, that blood transfusion equipment is there, that computers work. But that is only feasible if the economic system is functional. So our success on the healthcare side is a function of the resilience of the economic system. Now, what has the economic impact been so far? First, trade with China has contracted dramatically. Stock markets have dropped in the meantime by over 30%. At this stage, it's very hard to assess actually the scenarios differ between, is it just a hard hit for the economy, or is it actually a systemic risk which we face? As we speak, central banks are embarking on rate cuts and quantitative easing. This is the same tools that they have deployed as of the crisis of 2008. And key to that approach is that it's bank-centric. In the sense, they try to make cheap credit available to banks in the hope that they then farm it out to small enterprises, large enterprises, governments. That has been the strategy. Now, important, it's in a crisis that reputations are made or lost. Trump, as an example, gave a talk yesterday which triggered a sell-off in the financial markets. So it's how we today respond. This is and influences the confidence of people, how they will manage the crisis. What I want to do in this talk is explain how technology and science can be used as a resource to address the challenge which we face. We have to understand that if you see these trade flows going back and forth across the world, that's only possible because in the back end, there is a financial and banking system that is the enabler of the global economy. So it's only in conjunction of the financial system, including its banking system, that we have smartphones, that there is medicine, that all the kind of features that of the modern economy, that they're feasible. Now, it has to be understood that the financial system is not just a financial system, but if you think about it, it's a nervous system. It's like in your body, it's the nervous system that triggers how you respond to influences and how you manage crises of any sort. Now, the problem which we face is that the financial system, even though banks deploy a lot of computers, builds on business practices which come literally out of an age when we only had handwritten letters which have to be physically deposited and transported by the postman and brought to the counter to the recipient. So the whole financial system assumes in the background that the postman actually confirms the trade and sends a letter confirming that. So processing is delayed by 2 days. That's a very serious issue. Now, in England, and I love to drive a bicycle, but something which I know, however well I can drive my bicycle, if it has a flat tire, it doesn't help. A broken bicycle is a broken bicycle. So a financial system where the operating model is broken, we cannot assume that other forces will kind of make up for that. It's just broken. And I think this has to be understood. So we cannot just say, oh, let's fix here at a low level something, we have to really understand it's a broken bicycle, and there are many reasons which I could explain why it is broken, but it is, just to summarize, a broken bicycle. Now, what are threats that we face given that the financial system is broken in the sense that it builds on processes that come from a different time? So first, as I highlighted at the start, a threat is that the healthcare system crumbles. Be it that there are no supplies, that kind of the insurance system collapses and can't pay the doctors, a number of reasons. The second thing is that the economic and financial crisis has its own impact. If prices in financial markets move dramatically, then portfolios and the exposure which banks have to their customers and which they themselves have suddenly are unhedged. And when they're unhedged and markets go against them, banks are there to lose a lot of money. Let alone that when their customers suddenly cannot earn their regular income, they fall in default. The issue is that there could be a secondary sequence of reactions. So that is a big challenge. So whenever there is a danger and threat, and there is a big threat, we have to carefully think, what is the escape route? So let me kind of dive into that. And what I want to do is, in the coming 3/4 of an hour, is really take you on a long journey from very high level ideas down to actually some kind of basic research concepts, and then kind of a concrete plan forward. So, as already mentioned, I think we have to do one thing. Let's leverage technology. Let's think carefully how we can take advantage of modern technology to address the crisis. And what I'm always fascinated about is the genius of science that has made modern technology possible. This is which we have to embrace. Now, why has science been so successful? And when I talk of science, I really refer to natural sciences because it has been data-driven. Meticulous analysis of data. And it's based on the data results, which you see, that then kind of conclusions are drawn and action is taken. But important, when you do science, have your data, it's important to be very open. If your results indicate that something doesn't add up, don't just ignore that. If things don't match, they don't match. You have to follow up. So it's very important to be open. The second thing is, don't be shy. Think big. Have the courage to just imagine quite different solutions. Now, for me personally, I'm always intrigued by nature. I mean, nature, it's unbelievable if you think about that diversity, versatility, and what is achieved. And your body is just one example of the ingenuity of nature. And let us be inspired by that, not by saying, let's copy something one to use the richness of solutions which you see in nature as inspiration for our work. I think key to answering and solving our current is to use nature's intelligence. Because as you know, when you're ill and you become healthy again, nature uses very subtle mechanisms to ensure that you get back into a balance. So what I would argue is, if I want to kind of have a slang term, let's go from artificial intelligence to nature's intelligence. That's what we have to strive for. Now, let's think on a very abstract level. So if I would tell you my whole career, it is, I spent a long time, my first project which I built was setting up a company which builds a real-time information system. Way back in mid-80s, I argued that what financial markets need is a real-time forecasting service. The business plan was to earn subscription income from banks and invest that money into doing research. During the course of that research, we published a lot of papers. There was also a book published called Introduction to High Frequency Finance. But I have to say, the result of all that technology was very disappointing. The forecast qualities of our service was only 30% better than just using an Excel spreadsheet. Now, definitely better, but it was not a game changer. So what I then did is go back to basics and continue on some of the ideas which I had developed over the years. And now I'll tell you about some of major insights. So first of all, if you think about the world at large, first thing you have to know, everything is movement. So it's not that we have Lego building blocks which start, but everything is actually ongoing movement. The second, I think, and this is very important if we think about economics, and we're confronted today with that. Isn't it unbelievable what all influences what we are experiencing? Tweet, it's a talk, it's virus, kind of multiplication rate, it's kind of a margin call with a trader, it is politics in the sense the political power balance, economic flows. It's incredible what all has an influence. Now, I'm trying to go to what I find is the most important thing. Now, you are in the lecture room, and each one of you has his own family, his own experience. And if you have someone, maybe in your family, who himself has been infected by coronavirus, you feel the pain of your family member. So why do I mention that? Because each one of us has his own intrinsic space-time. And each one of us has an intrinsic space-time that, depending what we experience, expands and contracts. Now, key in this approach is, and that I want to show, is how we can tie this very abstract concept of each of one being his own system into a more systematic approach, which we can actually use in modeling. So what we have to do is to build economics. It's all about time series, and it's all about building social models of how this can all work. Because to make a smartphone operational, engineers had to design the computer chip, envisioning how a computer chip would function. And the same thing here is, we on the one hand have to understand the forces of economics, and then the other try to make sure that we design things that really work. Now, key in this storyline is the fact, and I think this is of essence in the whole story, is that the world as we experience is not just one world, but each one of you is his own world, his own intrinsic space. Mr. Trump is his own intrinsic space-time, as each trader, as each country, as each company. So the world as we see it is a kind of a big interaction of different systems. Now, in this environment, it's important that we have to understand how the time scale ticks of one system. So if you want to analyze a financial market, it does not help if you impose your time scale and based on your own time scale, sample data. What you have to do is try to extract from the series itself its heartbeat, how fast its time moves. So today, when financial markets collapse, it is not a normal day. It is not just a normal Thursday as there is any other Thursday, but it's a Thursday which involves a big price move, initially down. If governments do not do anything, it might just be a continuous down. But if, for example, in 2 hours, 8 hours, several central bankers come up and say, look, we take this action, then markets might reverse. So intrinsic event-based time is critical because then we can start to understand what's happening inside one of those systems. The system being either one trader or being a whole market as represented in the time series of the history of that instrument. Now, Edward, you have done, and some of your students, a lot of work with this framework, and this is a practical example. So what we do is you have the data series, and as opposed to sampling the data based on the physical time clock, we sample the data based on what we call directional changes. If the price moves down by a threshold of 1%, as soon as that happens, that is the first intrinsic time point. And then we are in one time interval, which will then stop as soon as the price has reversed by this 1%. Again, we will wait until it falls again by 1%. So we have basically two elements, the threshold of directional change, and then second, the degree with which the price will overshoot before it reverses by the same threshold. This is a very exciting framework because it allows for an analysis which is highly dynamic. It's in this way, you can really zoom in what is happening to one system and then analyze its interaction with other systems. Now, I have to stress that what we have done is just the very start. There are a number of research papers which explain what has been done here, and Edward and his students, they have also published some very interesting papers which have to be added here, but I just put in a few here as a start. Now, the fascinating thing in this whole approach is that from very abstract principle that everything is dynamic, that it's possible to look at the economy from a systems point of view. There is an event-based intrinsic time operator, which is a rigorous mathematical tool to analyze what's happening. One can then analyze the interactions of forces in a market or even in the whole economy. Now, again, as some of the students who have been working in this field know, there are scaling laws which come out, which are very powerful tools because these scaling laws give one a frame of reference to measure things in this system. It would go too far to go into details to explain here. Just want to highlight that this very dynamic way of looking at the economy has embedded inside a framework system which allows for exact measurements. So it's something which we can really, get our hands on, like in natural sciences, and really measure. Key is that the economy as a whole, if you take this kind of train of thought, emergent network. In this framework, it's all about modeling on very abstract levels these agents, and then see what happens when other events occur. But it's important that these are non-deterministic models. These are models which are path dependent. So if there is in the world one trader who has a margin call at the wrong moment in time, he can be the butterfly that makes things tick. And when we build a financial system, we have to think of those effects to make sure that it's well designed and that it can be made stable. I find fascinating that out of this approach comes a very relative value system. We get away from having a kind of absolute values of say these are the fundamental prices, but it's a relativistic framework. What is useful is that this approach can be used to build investment strategies that provide liquidity. And I'll come to that later on, because in a financial system is as good as the markets are liquid. Because as of now, people are worried. They see, oh my goodness, I have to, customers aren't coming. I have to make sure that I have enough cash balances, so they sell. But when someone sells, someone else has to buy. And it's key that someone is there to buy. Now, in the past, people have relied on manual traders, speculative traders who just come in and buy. But what we really need are computer bots which screen markets 24 hours, 7 days a week, and are ready to provide liquidity on a continuous basis. When people come in and want to sell, that there is a buyer until the next buyer comes in, and this buyer can sell it on. So what is needed is social engineering and sciences as reduced in natural sciences. Again, just want to highlight, it has to be science driven. Far too much in financial markets is, goes under the slang technical analysis, doesn't have a solid foundation. We have to build the models of the same rigor as is done in natural sciences. Now, let's continue. So, we are experiencing it today. We're all networked. If there is a virus, a small virus, somewhere in the world that starts to spread, it's an infection that spreads across the whole world. And I would argue that the Earth as a whole is an organism. It's not, I am here and there is, the cold earth. No, the world that we see is one big organism. So coming back again to our social system, the financial system, we have to make this super dynamic, emergent, and networked. Because one lesson which you learn when you study the nature or your human body is that the human body works precisely because it's super dynamic. One example which I'm every day fascinated is each one of you has literally 5 liters of blood in his body. But those 5 liters are circulated at a rate in your body of 100 times your body's weight every day. Just imagine if you have to go outside and lift your own body's weight 100 times. So this is what the heart does on a regular basis. But now, first you think, why this doesn't make sense? But it actually makes a lot of sense, because if there is a lot of volume of circulation, any imbalance can be rectified fast. As opposed to letting imbalances grow, the trick is to minimize imbalances. And this can be done by speeding it up. So again, coming back to this emerge, and here not talking about tweets, but how to do and design the financial market and the system at large. Again, something which I find we should highlight here is in your bodies, each one of us has 10 trillion cells, and 10 trillion times the full DNA. I would argue this is akin to saying that any knowledge, any software should be open source, accessible to everyone. Financial markets, they're key. And what we have to do now, and this I'm coming to the next chapter, is we have to transform the financial system. And we have to do this not in a matter of 10 years, but let's fix it fast. So the key is, how can we do that without spending, kind of years and years of negotiating to do it? Is there a path forward? So what are the tools that are at our disposal today, and what are they? Now, I know that in the past several years, there has been a lot of talk about crypto and a little bit about blockchain. Now, for me, crypto is not the thing, but what's really important is blockchain technology, because that is a very important part of the answer going forward. And I have to stress that everyone who tells you, this doesn't work, that doesn't work, these are issues, but all manageable issues. The ingenious thing of blockchain is that if you think about it, it's like an automated legal system. And what's very important is that legal system can be spread across the globe and get agreement. So blockchain is like a notary service, and that notary service can do certain contractual legal steps fully automatically. And so that there is no debate, is it right or wrong, but it is just as it was agreed. Now, why is that so important that we have access to blockchain? Because a very important part of the solution that we have to strive for is that every financial asset, any other asset, has to have a token. It has to have an alter ego of a token. Now, what do I mean thereby? Any one of you who has ever been involved in a company that has shareholders, and you are a shareholder of that company, how do I know that I'm shareholder? There is a ledger which lists the name of people who own shares. But isn't that much more powerful if you have something in your hand to prove that you're the owner of that share? Now, in banknotes, we're aware you have a banknote here, and you can take this banknote, and that proves that you own a £10 note. This is it. But wouldn't it be great to not do this with paper, but in a tokenized way on your smartphone, that every bond, every share, every legal right can be represented as a token? Now, the advantage over a paper share certificate is that a digital token can be sliced up into any small pieces and exchanged. So that's an important part of the remedy. Now, linked to that is essential that we have a global exchange. That is, if you have a token out of China, you want to be able to sell it anywhere in the world and receive any other token. And now, if we create a seamless network of tokens, the exciting thing is that then the recipient doesn't just have to receive the token which you're selling, but the token that he wants to receive. So you can have intermediate layers which make sure that the recipient receives whatever token he wants to receive. So tokenization can be achieved above the old financial infrastructure. You have these digital tokens exchangeable over blockchain, and they can be moved around. What we also need, we have to have an information system. I mean, now, when you look on Twitter, you Google some news, this is far too imprecise. We need, like in weather forecasting, where masses of data are combined, we need an online forecasting service with beautiful weather maps and digital forecasts, which tell you this is going on here, this is going on there, and this is key to an answer. So we have to tie these different things together to create an intelligent financial system. That's what has to be done. And key in this intelligent financial system is that we have smart asset management. Today, a key problem is that by and large, all investment strategies are buy and hold. And these investment strategies only make money if stock markets rise and interest rates drop. But if they reverse, then you don't earn money. Smart asset management is a strategy which provides liquidity. So you earn money not by just sitting back and hoping that we are in a continuous uptrend, but you earn money by ensuring and providing the service that when some people want to sell, you buy and wait until the next person buys again. And this is there where you can generate very consistent returns and offer huge benefit, not just to yourself as the owner of those assets, but you earn money by providing liquidity, which, as we see today, is something very important for the economy as a whole. Again, I think we have to make it very easy in this period of crisis to achieve open access publishing. We have to really ensure that people from around the globe can contribute to build this social system. And for that, We really have to make it easy for people to be able to publish. What I talked about before as this global information system, I would call that as a kind of Wikipedia for big data. Wikipedia, it's unbelievable what it contributes in terms of information dissemination today. But we need the same thing in terms of collecting and bringing together all the digital data, which is being collected today, 24 hours, 7 days a week. High-level forecasting service for people to access and get all the information in real time that is needed. Now, what is the action plan? So what I've talked to you is these very high-level ideas, some from very abstract to more tokenization. I think for each one of us, I think we have to be aware of one thing. Because if you look out into the world today, the global crisis, the world has 7.4 billion people. And the question is, when you sit there in the lecture room, how can you contribute? I think one thing which people are not fully aware of is each one of you knows 50 people. Each person whom you know knows himself 50 people. So within 6 links, you have a potential to reach 16 billion people, more people than live on the earth. But why do I mention it? So whatever small thing you do, it actually, other people hear about it, it spreads. So anything that you do on the smallest scale is relevant. The second thing is, let's tokenize everything. And now, this is not just important for some banks that they can tokenize on their balance sheet each asset and liability that they have. But the same is true for governments. Think of the government, how many assets they have. They have land, they have rights to natural resources, they have provide healthcare. There are so many services which a government provides. If they start to tokenize those services, then it's possible to kind of sell those services at a price and at different prices depending on different situations. And you can also give them away for free. So like nature is incredibly subtle, and each cell in your body is relevant and plays a very important role. And the same thing we have to enable in our economy. We have to make it easier for people to tokenize. But now, this is not something which will take us 10 years to build. It's something where the technology, as we speak, is basically there. It's an effort of 1, 2, 3, 4 months. And we could have platforms ready where it's very easy to tokenize. Now, what I imagine is that we're really going into a world which is a kind of a barter society, an electronic barter society, where we can pay with what we have, and the recipient receives what we receive, and you have a market maker who does the exchange, or several market makers who's the inter kind of operator. So, and this will be very powerful because it gives each one of us the opportunity to be empowered. And that is, I think, important. Now, to achieve all that, it's key that we create a super seamless intermarket. So if we have now, over the last 25 years, talked about the internet, I think in the next years, we have to talk about the intermarket, create a seamless marketplace so that we can ensure the global supply chain operate seamlessly. I think key in this strategy is that it's an empowerment of cities, local communities, individuals. If we rely on a top-centric approach, then we cannot handle the crisis. If we leverage the kind of resources of each individual, each small groups, then we can work. So key, again, is that we also combine all this information into an online service, forecast service, to give us what's really going on. So this is from a very high level. Now, I don't know, we maybe will have one or two questions, several questions. That would be great. Did anyone send me some questions?
I don't know if anyone, sorry Richard, thank you for that first half of the talk. I don't know if anyone sent you any questions, but any questions for Richard so far? Are you familiar with tokenization? Heard about that? Richard, when do you think that tokenization is going to take off really as something that is a serious player in financial markets?
And this is, kind of the talk is actually it can be kicked off tomorrow. As soon as we get fully regulated, it can just fly. Because what we have been doing is applying for the regulatory wrapper to have a fully, not just be a financial organization which use the old infrastructure and then tokenize it up, but we have prepared and are building an infrastructure that is bottom-up blockchain-based. So tokenization can happen any moment. So now when I say any moment, it's obviously work. You have to kind of make it easy for people to then upload information. Kind of it's a lot of work, to be honest, but it's all feasible. It's nothing unknown.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions about securitization? Yes, please. Richard, what do you think about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency? So you briefly addressed that, but you said that blockchain wasn't about, I think you said blockchain really isn't about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Do you think that what's happened to cryptocurrencies and has sort of devalued blockchain or hidden its usefulness?
So first of all, I think what has been very sad with this whole crypto movement is that it was sold the wrong way. That is, kind of, in a sense, in the enthusiasm of having a new technology, people say, look, we have all the answers. But actually, they only had part of the answer. They have a very interesting software stack to ensure a seamless global kind of backend for financial assets and how to manage those. The idea that you have one crypto becoming just like one global currency, that doesn't take into account the necessity of subtlety of a human body. It's like putting in, kind of one piece of wood just straight, and this is far too static. So, and obviously then the whole kind of reputation has become very tarnished because of the high volatility. But the high volatility is again because the people who've been building the markets have not designed it with the necessary financial engineering. So there are some operational flaws that just undermine the usefulness. So by no means do I want to say that crypto and especially utility tokens, which are like receivables from a receivable of like a hotel voucher, a voucher from Amazon, they'll play a very important role. So it's just, I think from my point of view, what was very unfortunate was just sold the wrong way. One should have put on much more focus of the deficiencies of the existing financial system, and try to highlight what needs to be improved, and then say, by the way, here is a technology that can solve some of those questions.
Okay, Richard, thank you very much. Are there any more questions at the moment? Maybe we'll have a think about some during the break. Should we take it? Oh, yeah, no, another question, yeah.
I just wonder if there's any security risks right now in terms of tokenization. Obviously, a lot of people will be wary about converting physical assets into digital tokens in terms of hackers. Like, a lot of people don't have general knowledge. Yeah, it's just to simplify that.
No, I think that's good. I don't know if you heard that, Richard, but one of the questions from the audience here, in terms of tokenization, is what are the security risks, perhaps in terms of hacking and other things that we've seen. Perhaps we were promised that Bitcoin was secure, and we've seen that sometimes that's not secure, particularly where it's held. What about with security tokens?
So just to explain the difference, so Bitcoin is literally, if you think about it, is like a commodity. And if you have your private key to 1 Bitcoin or 100 Bitcoin, and someone else has that gets access to your private key, he can immediately sell it. So as a commodity, very much like gold, if I have gold here in my room because I'm worried about the safety of the financial system, and a thief comes in and takes the gold away, I have lost my secure kind of safe haven gold. Gold is as good as the law is to the gold. But now with security tokens, it's very different. It's like a share certificate. So if someone gets hold of my share certificate, I can at any time cancel the share certificate. So for the whole securitization of other assets, naturally one shouldn't be foolish. But there is the kind of security risks as you have it for the underlying commodity is not there because it's possible to cancel.
Okay, so cancellation is part of the... Really pleased that you can